Most of us are back, so we're going to start. We had a couple questions in the break. A couple things came up. We'll start. Most of them had to do with service animals, so we'll start over here.
Yes, we have an individual with a disability that takes her pet on the bus, but insists that it's a service animal.
Okay. And
Where our problem came into effect was a regular person is highly allergic to animals. She knows of this person, and she's trying to say she can't have a dog on her bus. And we had to explain, yes, she can. If it is a service animal, it is allowed on her bus.
right, right. And you did the right thing. I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that doesn't matter.
You know, if you're,
I was just
allergic to it, then I'm sorry, you'll have to move away from her, get as far away as you
Right.
can. But she does have the right to have a service animal.
Absolutely, absolutely. That matter of fact, I'm glad you said that because I was just about to say that to you. Whether someone else is allergic, that's their problem. To sound
It's a
harsh.
large bus,
It's a large bus, yeah. Again, the thing about it is, for service animals, one of the other questions you had was what can you ask? What can you ask a person? Again, as I stated, you can only ask, is it a service animal? You may not ask it under the law. You may not ask a person if what the service is that it provides.
I thank you for that, because like I said, our drivers have been taught they can ask 2 questions.
Cannot ask 2 questions. Can only ask 1. Can only ask 1. And I said earlier that actually let's start here. Then I'll say what I said.
On a service animal, is there a difference between an employer versus a service provider and asking about, is that a service animal?
No. No difference.
So for a reasonable accommodation, then the employer can't ask for certification or anything like that?
No. No.
Because you said earlier
They don't necessarily have it, and there's no law on the books that, and I'm glad you said this, because actually this is what I was going to start saying. There's no law on the books that says you have to have certification or a harness, one of those harnesses. The thing to look, like I said, the thing to look for if they don't have those harnesses are they under the control of the owner? Are they under the control of the owner? If they're not, then you're within your rights to, if they're bothering other people, if they're walking around the bus. Or off and not under the control of the owner, then you are within your rights to say, we can't serve your animal. We can't have your animal. It's not under your control. Again, that's also a fine line. You can't refuse the person, but you can refuse the animal. Okay. Now back to certification. I have a thought about this, and this is my own. Again, this is not a legal opinion. This is just my own personal opinion on certification. I wish that there was a national certification. I think it would make life a lot easier for people and in issues like this. I think it would. And I'll come at it from a social work perspective. I'm a licensed bachelor level social worker. That proves to people when I go for jobs, especially jobs that call for a social worker, a bachelor level social worker, that I'm qualified to do that job. I'm qualified. I've been through schooling. I've done the test. I've done everything that was required of me to earn the level of certification that I have. There's not a set of rules for animals the same way, and I think it hurts people. And I think it hurts people with disabilities, and I think it hurts service dogs and service animals and companies that provide them and do provide certification. And I think it hurts, you guys. I think it hurts you guys. It ties your hands on what you can do. What you can ask and what things like that. It ties your hands. Because if they say it's a service animal, unless it's not under the control of the person, there's not much else you can do. So it does. So that's, again, not a legal opinion. I want to make that clear. Not a legal opinion, just mine. Any more questions back there?
Yes, I have a question. It's been question is, if a person gets on the bus and they do not qualify for half-fare disability ride, are they still able to bring in a service animal? Because
Ooh, this is a tough one. This is a tough
they
one.
don't have the qualifications to get a half-fare bus.
Based on your assessment
Half-fare bus.
tool, what?
Well,
I'm assuming you have an assessment tool in place to determine that.
in order to qualify for the half-fare disability ride card, they have to come in, get a form which is taken to their doctor. The doctor fills it out, specifying that they qualify under ADA, that they are disabled, and they bring it back, and with that, they get a half-fare card.
Do you have a physical assessment? Like where you do in face-to-face physical assessment?
Yes, they come in, they have the interview, and then they're given the form that they take to the doctor, and then it comes back. I mean, the question is, if they don't qualify for the disability ride, are they still allowed to have a service?
I think you're talking about two separate issues there. Anthony, please help me out.
My name's Anthony. I work with the Governor's Commission on Disability, and I think I'm familiar with the case you're talking about. In that situation, the person doesn't want, he's called me about this. He says it's not a transit district. It's none of their business to know what my disability is, to ask me if I have a disability. So,
And you can't, by the way, by law, you can't do that.
so I told them that it is their policy that if you want a half fare, you do have to go in and fill out bring in whatever they need from the doctor, fill out your form. He refuses to do that. However, so I said, well, you're going to be able to ride the bus with your animal as long as it behaves, as long as it's under your control.
But you don't qualify for the half fare.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have
So
to
it's
qualify for the half fare.
right. So it's basically two different issues. Yes, under the law, the service animal is thank you, Anthony. The service animal is allowed, yes, under the ADA, because it's two separate issues. Now, because he refuses to take in that assessment, that doctor's assessment, then he doesn't qualify for the ride. So it's two separate issues. It's two separate issues.
Okay, but you told him that he has.
Yeah, that's what I'm told.
Okay.
But
We have a lot of
at least on me, he contacted somebody else, because he didn't get the answer he wanted.
Right.
And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Is some people are going to do that. They're going to go to people until they get the answer they want. Doesn't always work. They come to me. They're not going to get the answer they want probably either. So, it's that. But again, you're talking about two separate issues. Disability. If someone has a disability as defined by the ADA, that's where you would handle the service animal. That's where you come from. If you're talking about your policy as far as how you qualify for an ADA ride, half fare, mind you, that's a different issue. And so thank you, Anthony, for helping us clear that one up. Any other? There was one over here. Yeah.
Yeah. What about liability? What if that service animal bites somebody?
Then it is no longer a service animal. Kind of what I said earlier. If it has to be under the person's control, it has to.
A shared liability, or is it there?
It would be there. I'm not gonna make a legal opinion. I'm not a lawyer, so my advice to you is ask an ADA lawyer about that specifically. But again, it's the as far as refusing an animal. The thing to look for is it under the control. If it's biting people, then no, it's not under the control of the person. Therefore, you can say again, we can't transport your animal. We can transport you we can't transport your animal.
But you might not be able to know until it happens on the bus, so where does the liability fall?
Right.
His lawyer might want to say, well, you let him on.
Again, I'm not a lawyer. Again, I'm not a lawyer.
I understand, but.
So I'm going to, again, I'm just going to defer to an ADA lawyer and say, for those specific answers, go to a lawyer. Okay, next question.
Okay, I was kind of a two-part question. You mentioned the difference between a service animal and a therapy animal.
Yes.
And can you ask, is this a therapy animal or a service animal?
You can ask if it's a service animal. And that's you can ask if it's a service animal. That's the question you ask. Because how would they know the distinction? They may not know the distinction.
So if it is indeed, if they say this is a therapy, if they say this is a therapy animal, you said they had limited access?
They do have limited access, yes. And they don't qualify for the same access as individuals, as service animals. Again, whereas service animals are allowed anywhere an individual goes. Excuse me, make that movie theaters, department stores, malls, buses, office building, their work, anywhere they go, they're allowed. Again, with the qualifications that I've already discussed. Therapy animal is usually by invitation. It's usually, you see them in hospitals mostly. You see them in places like that, and it's for people with depression yeah. But again, the thing to look for, because you can only ask, is it a service animal? The thing to look for is, okay, if they say yes, once that animal's on the bus, okay, is it crawling around? Is it under the control of the person? Is it crawling? That kind of thing. Is it bothering other people? Does it bite other people? If it does, no longer a service animal. And you can say, at that point on the bus, you can stop the bus and say, I cannot transport your animal. So, did that clear it up? I see, like I said, I knew service animals were going to be a big subject. Okay, we got about 3 more minutes, so any other questions, or?
I have another question. As a supervisor, I'm asked to go and assist drivers on occasion with a passenger that's intoxicated or high. But when I get there, sometimes it's not very clear if it's disability that I'm dealing with. So how would you recommend that I?
The closest thing I can give you is I'll go back to individuals with CP, because there's third speech. Many of them who have severe cerebral palsy. The answer is if someone is drunk. If someone is drunk, you can tell without getting very close to them. You can tell from like 5-10 feet, maybe. Yeah, you can smell it. So you can smell it. So that's something to do. That's something there. As far as other drugs that maybe you can't smell on them, it's very difficult. I would just say look for the cues I've talked about. Look for those things. When you're dealing with people with traumatic brain injury, that may mimic something. People with psychiatric disabilities may mimic someone who's high or someone who's, so just look for those types of things when you're talking about safety, when you're talking about those types of things. Is just look for those things. Okay, we have 1 more minute. So, back here and then one back there.
I got a question. We're talking about Title V. You said if they were currently in a drug rehab program,
Yes.
they'd be covered.
They would be covered under the ADA.
Well, what if they quit that program? Then where do we stand?
Then they would no longer be covered in the ADA. I think. I would again, without making legal opinions. The way I've heard it defined, this is and the information I gave you is just the way I've heard it defined, the way I've read it defined, is that if they are currently in a rehab program, they are covered under the ADA. If they are currently on drugs, not on a rehab program, but currently on drugs, they're not covered. So if they are not under the rehab but getting on drugs, again, do they have a psychoactive disorder because of the drug use? And that psychoactive disorder may make them qualify under the ADA. So then if they have things that may qualify them. So again, it's a tricky situation. But what I would say is if they're currently in a rehab program, just go by that. Go by that if you can. Unless they have something from their doctor saying, or something that has happened since then because of the drug use, that kind of thing. Back there, and then we'll finish up.
Back to service animals, couldn't you just tell them, sorry, we don't allow pets, and they have to indulge them to make some pets?
Service animals are not pets.
Okay, but couldn't they correct you and tell you, no, this is a service animal, it's not a pet? And then,
No. Service animals are not, well, number one, you're making the exception of pets. Service animals are not pets.
okay, but what's stopping the individual when you ask them, well, is this a service animal, and they're just saying yes?
Nothing. You're absolutely right. Nothing. That is why that's why I'm saying to you to look for the difference between a pet, therapy animal, service animal isn't under the control. Have you if you've seen a service animal, if they're sitting down somewhere, a dog, let's say, if they're sitting down and they're under the control, they're not moving. They don't move at all. So it's if you start looking for signs, it'll be easy to tell. But to answer your question, no, nothing's stopping anybody from saying they have a service animal, because there's no. Again, this is the downside to not having certification law. This is the downside. To me, anyway. Okay, so it's 4:30. So I want to thank everybody for coming. This was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope I'm able to do more of these things. If anybody wants, I have cards, business cards, if they want to contact me. Oops. Actually, you know what? I have cards. I also have, this is how to contact me. My phone number is 575-640-9619. My email is valenciaco2003@yahoo.com. And my Facebook, I have a business Facebook at facebook.com/joyfulx, and that's X expressions. So if you want to contact me, also I have brochures for my motivational speaking side of my business. It explains what I do, and cards. So anyway, thank you very much, and have a great day.
Cory.